spitting watermelon seeds off the back of your porch. We were the kings of the county, holding the torch, tracing maps in the dirt with a broken stick, thinking that the bond we had would always stick. Thick as the humidity in a Georgia July, two kids convinced that we'd never say goodbye. The distance isn't measured in the miles on the road, it's the silence that settles under the heavy load. We traded our dreams for the bills and the pride, with nowhere left for the young hearts to hide. A beautiful tragedy of becoming someone new. Now your house is filled with voices I've never met. My life is a gamble with a mounting debt. You speak of the harvest and the price of the grain. I talk of the city and the weight of the rain. The laughter we shared is a muffled old sound, lost in the noise of the world spinning round. Time is a thief that doesn't leave a single trace, except for the lines that you cross a weary face. We're just two ships passed in the morning light, losing our bearings in the middle of the night. Wisdom comes at a cost I didn't want to pay. Half-empty bottle and a dusty old frame, searching for the boy who shared my last name. It's okay that we're different now, even if I don't remember how. To bridge the gap between us.
Neon blood and gravel, the neon sign outside is bleeding red onto the jagged gravel. I watch the ceiling fan spin like a slow motion gallows. Every sip of this cheap bourbon tastes like a promise I broke. My hands are shaking under the weight of words I never spoke. The clock on the wall stopped ticking back in 79. I'm just a ghost sitting here waiting for the end of the line. The jukebox is humming a tune that sounds like a warning. The air gets heavy with the scent of a storm coming in. I can feel the floorboards groaning under my tired boots. Something is waiting for me just beyond the swinging doors. Oh, the shadows are growing long and they're calling out my name. A symphony of regret played on a rusted steel string. There ain't enough think I'm just a drifter, running from a broken heart. But I was the one who set the match to the family farm. I watched the smoke climb high while I drove toward the state line, leaving my brother to answer for a crime that was purely mine. The gold in my pocket feels heavier than the lead in my chest. The darkness is a blanket that smothers a flickering light. I hear the echoes of sirens screaming through the hollow pipes. Justice is a slow-moving train that finally caught the track. There's a hole in my spirit where the mercy used to stay. I'm tired of the running and the lying and the constant fear. I've lived 1,000 lives, but I've never truly been here. God, if you're listening, just turn your head for a second. I'm ready to face the hell that I've spent years beckoning. The bartender's wiping the counter with a cloth made of gold. I reach for my keys, but I know I've reached the end of the road. One more glass before the sun forgets to rise again. The door is creaking open now and the wind begins to howl.
Mailbox flag is rusted shut, like the throat of a man with too much to say. I've been watching the wheat fields bend under a wind that doesn't reach me. Your letter stopped coming, but the silence tells me more than the ink ever could. It's the sound of a woman finding her voice in a city of millions. Didn't have a final showdown or a dramatic exit in the middle of the night. We just let the thread between us get so thin that it finally floated away. The breath I'm holding is starting to feel like a mountain in my chest, and the horizon is a jagged line that looks like a hard monitor flatlining. Is a slow thief, stealing the warmth from our hands while we sleep. It's the accumulation of every maybe later and not right now. I hope the skyscrapers give you the height that this valley never offered, because I was a ceiling when I should have been a wide open sky. Now the miles are a debt I'm paying back with every lonely sunset. I looked at the old photos and saw the exact moment your smile started to fade. It was the day I told you that my roots were too deep for your dreams. I was so proud of my heritage that I forgot to build a future for you, choosing the tradition of my father over the transition of my heart. I was the architect of this isolation, and I built the walls myself, thinking I was keeping us safe when I was just keeping you trapped. I'm breaking down the fences I spent my whole life trying to maintain, admitting that the view is better when you're afraid of the horizon. I've grown more in these 3 months of silence than in 30 years of noise, And I'm finally becoming a man who is worthy of the memory of you. A soft smile for the person you're becoming without me in your way. I'll keep the farm running, but I'll leave the gate wide open from now on. It's a hopeful kind of lonesome to know that you're finally breathing deep. May your journey be longer than the shadows I cast on your soul.
Silver and the whiskey burns the trail of every lie I ever told. Sitting on this stool makes me feel a century older. The fan is cutting the cigarettes, smoking the jagged shapes. I'm looking for a window, there aren't any escapes. The shadows in the corner are whispering about the past. The floor is sticky with the spill, dreams of better men. Waiting for the courage to pick up my heavy pen. But the ink has turned to vinegar and the paper's gone dry. I can hear the lonesome whistle of a train passing by. I'm a hero for surviving that winter storm, but I was the reason the fire didn't keep the cabin warm. I took the only blanket and left the others to the frost. I'm the king of a kingdom where every single soul was lost. I carry their shivering voices in the marrow of my bones. The velvet night is closing in like a velvet line coffin. I'm hearing the sounds of footsteps I don't hear very often. There's a tally on the wall for the sins I haven't cleared. I'm becoming the very monster that I always feared. Take my hand if you wanna see how deep the canyon goes. I've got secrets buried deeper than the winter mountain snow. I'm a hollowed out tree standing in a field of fire. I'm a broken down string on a forgotten country lyre. The bartender is turning the sign around to close.
My true identity is about to be completely exposed. The moon is a cold eye staring through the window pane. I guess I'll just sit here and wait for the rain.
Conversation I've had in years. My reflection in the dining window looks like a stranger I hate. The town square is a circle that never lets anyone leave the middle. I'm tired of the dust and the talk about the weather and the crops. The heavy doors of the mill are closing on the man I used to be, working for a pittance and dying for a dream that wasn't mine. The needle is moving and the shadows are starting to stretch. I've got enough fire in my belly to light up the whole interstate. Everything I own is sitting in the seat right next to me. I'm breaking the silence with a roar that can be heard for miles. The mountains are calling me like a mother I never quite knew, leaving the echoes of the hammer behind for the song of the tires. I'm a comet in the darkness, burning up the road to the coast. I wait until the shift change to make my move into the light. Park the truck at the cliffside and watch the mill smoke rise. Then I turned the wheel toward the west and didn't look back once. The chains of the past are snapping with every gear I shift. I'm a shadow in the moonlight, vanishing into the great wide open. I'm a ghost in the rear view, vanishing into the purple haze. The highway is a ribbon that's tied my future to the stars. No more ceilings or walls, just the infinite stretch of the blue. I'm breathing in the wild and exhaling the smoke of the mill. I've spent 40 years listening to the sound of other men's orders. Now the only voice I hear is the one inside my own chest. It's telling me to run until I find where the sun goes to sleep. Triumphant and reckless, I'm finally living for the unfettered and legendary, I'm making my own way through the dark. The road is a teacher and the engine is my only true friend. And I'm finding my salvation in the blur of the passing scenery. Every mile is a blessing and every sunset is a new beginning. Into the golden skies where the struggle is a distant memory. The road goes on forever and the journey never has to end. Golden skies, I'm finally home.
Gravel spits against the wheel wells like a hail of bullets in the midnight air. I can see the silhouette of the grain elevator looming like a giant over the valley. The scent of wild honeysuckle is thick enough to choke a man who forgot to smell. I'm idling at the four-way stop where the town ends and the regrets begin. Pressure is building in my chest like the steam in an old locomotive boiler. I can feel the ghost of my younger self hitchhiking on the shoulder of the road. The shadows of the past are reaching out to grab the chrome on my bumper. Stars are burning holes in the velvet sky above the place I used to call home. A tattered flag snaps in the wind outside the VFW where we dance our first slow song. Memories are heavy as the iron gates on a cemetery hill under the pale moon. There's a hollow echo in the valley, a sound just like the name I used to whisper. Her ring and a white fence, but I gave her a cloud of dust and a tail light. Found out too late that the city lights are just a neon light toward a lonely man. I sold the family legacy for a paycheck that burned through my pockets in a week. Now I'm looking at the weeds growing through the cracks of the life I should have lived. I ain't the man who left and I ain't the man who stayed, just a drifter in the middle. Forgive me for the silence, forgive me for the distance and the bridge I set on fire. I'm standing on the ashes now, finally breathing without the weight of the world. The wind is cooling down as I turn the radio off and listen to the crickets sing. Tomorrow is a different state, but tonight I'm just a man who came back to say sorry. Let the dust settle on the tracks I left behind on this long winding road. Echoes of the playground under the flickering porch light. We felt like giants in the middle of the night. A handshake was a contract that couldn't be broken. Back when the truth didn't need to be spoken. I knew your secrets and you knew all of mine. Walking together on a thin straight line. The seasons keep changing while we stay the same, but the spark in our friendship is a dying flame. I'm reaching for someone who isn't there anymore, watching the tide pull away from the shore. Slow motion parting of two kindred hearts. Now you talk about politics and interest rates while I'm still worrying about the closing gates. You found a religion that I can't understand, and I've got a life that didn't go as I planned. We're polite at the funerals and the weddings we attend, but I know that I've lost my very best friend. It's funny how time makes a hero a ghost and takes away the things that you needed the most.
trying to remember how we used to be when the world was as small as a yard. I'll keep the memories in a box on the shelf and try to find a way to be okay with myself. Safe travels on the road you've paved, for all the moments that we never saved. Just a quiet sigh in the wind.
Gravel and ghosts, shadows dance in the corner like the men that I left behind in the rain. I'm trying to drown the thunder, but it's rattling my brain. This glass of rye is the only friend that doesn't ask me why. I'm staring at the ceiling, waiting for the stars to die. The wood of this bar is stained with 100 years. The wind is kicking up the dust along the lonely frontage road. I'm carrying it heavy in a catastrophic load. The air is getting thinner and the lights are turning blue. I'm running out of time and I'm running out of you. There's a cold wind blowing through the cracks in my weary heart. I've been a walking disaster right from the very start. The cards on the table all showing the ace of spades. I'm watching the colors of my life as the memory fades. You might think I'm a widow mourning a tragic loss, but I'm the one who threw the silver and I'm the one who paid the cost. I sold the location of the hideout to the man in a black suit. I traded my brothers for a suitcase and a pair of shiny boots. Now the money is rotting in a hole beneath the sycamore tree. I can hear the ghosts of the gang riding hard across the plain. Every drop of water on the roof is a bullet in the rain. The devil is a hitchhiker I picked up miles ago. He's sitting right beside me and he's starting to show. I'm confessing to the shadows cause the preacher is asleep. I've got promises to break and I got secrets to keep. My soul is a desert where nothing is ever gonna grow. I'm just a man with nowhere left for a spirit to go. The headlights are sweeping across the empty parking lot. I'm trying to remember the lessons that I was never taught. The engines are idling and the night is nearly done. I'm still sitting here staring at the barrel of the sun.
my name. The factory whistle sounds like a funeral march for my 85. I've seen the sunrise through a dirty window for far too long. The rust on the gate is the only thing growing in this dead valley. My dreams were gathering dust in the corner of a damp basement, walking the line until I realized the line was a circle. I got a suitcase full of nothing and a heart full of lightning. The engine is singing a hymn about the end of the world. I can feel the gravity losing its grip on my restless bones. I'm flying past the fences where the cows stare at the moon. The speedometer is the only truth I need to believe in right now. Trading the safety of the cage for the danger of the open road. I'm a spark in the dark, heading for the edge of the map. I didn't pack a bag, I just grabbed the jacket off the hook. Left my resignation letter on the kitchen table like a final prayer. The gravel crunched under my tires like the sound of a jail door opening. By the time they notice I'm gone, I'll be 2 states away. The city lights are fading into the purple haze of the midnight sky. The night is a wide open ocean, and I'm finally learning to sail. Every mile is a brick I'm pulling out of the wall of this town. I'm finding the melody in the chaos of the rushing wind. No more shadows on the wall, just the glow of the dashboard lights. I look back at the valley and I don't feel the sting of the past. I feel the triumph of the escape and the weight of the new world. I was born for the motion, not the stillness of the assembly line. Finally breathing the air that wasn't recycled by a machine. There's a glory in the motion that justifies the risk of the fall. I'm chasing the ghost of the legends who never play by the rules. The highway is a ribbon that's tied my future to the stars. I'm the master of the miles and the king of the midnight run. Headed for the borderline where the new life finally begins. The engine is a steady heartbeat in the silence of the desert. I'm free. On my way home. 7,000 mornings, 7,000 free, 7,000 7,000 mornings.
The cracked yellow line is bleeding into the oil stains on this lonesome stretch of blacktop. My headlights catch a skeleton of the old Sinclair station, where we used to steal kisses. The air smells like damp pine and the copper tank of an approaching autumn storm. Every shuttered window on Main Street feels like a cold eye watching me crawl back home. I passed the water tower with all names, faded under 20 years of rust and rain. My knuckles are white as bone against the warm leather of this steering wheel. The silence in the cab is screaming louder than the diesel engine ever could. Every mile marker is a tally of the days I spent running from the truth. Shadows of the oak trees dance across the porch where a rocking chair sat still. The moonlight spills like silver whiskey over the fields we used to call our kingdom. A broken heart don't make a sound when it hits the floor of a ghost town. There's a flickering lamp in the window of the house where I left my soul behind. Didn't just walk away from the girl. I buried my father's pride in a shallow grave. Left the mortgage on the kitchen table and took the only key that still worked. Now I'm staring at the darkened nursery window of a life I wasn't brave enough to lead. The guilt tastes like wood smoke and the bitter dregs of a bottle of cheap rye. I was a coward dressed in denim, and a reckless dream of something better than the soil. God, I wish I'd crashed this truck before I ever crossed that county line 10 years ago. I'm finally letting go of the steering wheel and letting the memory wash me clean. Sunrise is a pale bruise on the horizon as I put the truck back into gear.
I'm taking the peace I finally found in the dark. That won't stop screaming. Fluorescent lights flicker like a dying heartbeat in this hall. My hands are stained with grease and 30 years of empty promises, counting down the seconds until the whistle blows for the last time. Every cup of coffee tastes like the dirt under my fingernails. The foreman's shadow is a weight I can no longer carry on my back. The keys are jingling like a choir in my denim pocket. The mercury is rising and the pressure's about to blow. I can feel the electricity sparking in the soles of my boots. I'm chasing the horizon where the blacktop meets the setting sun. There's a world out there that doesn't smell like diesel and regret. I'm trading this cubicle for a kingdom made of wind and gravel, watching the city lights shrinking into the darkness of the past. I didn't even wait for the paycheck sitting on the foreman's desk. I threw my badge in the gravel, let the engine roar to life. The rust on my old Ford is the only metal I've earned in this town. Tearing out of the parking lot before the shame could catch my taillights. Goodbye to the main street that only leads to the graveyard. The throttle's open wide and the air's finally smelling sweet. No more punching the clock for a life I never wanted to own. The lines on the road are the only laws I'm following tonight, breaking every chain that tried to keep me anchored to the floor. I remember the kid who used to dream of mountains and the sea. He's been hiding under this hard hat for way too many seasons. But the fire ain't out, it was just waiting for a little bit of oxygen. Looking in the mirror and seeing a man I finally recognize. Unbound and running wild under the silver glow of the moon. Every mile I gain is a victory over the ghost of who I was. The highway is a prayer and the engine is my only testimony. Finding my salvation in the blur of the passing interstate signs. Just me in the open road, stretching out in the great unknown. The sunrise is waiting somewhere past the next county line. I'm gone, free at last.
Carved our names in the paint of the water tower. Spent every single minute of every single hour dreaming of the day we finally leave this place, searching for a life that had a little more space. You were the anchor and I was a sail, two sides of a coin on a dusty trail. The map that we drew has been folded and torn, leaving us weathered and a little bit worn. I miss the person you were before the world got its way, and I'm sorry for the man I've become today. Two souls drifting out on an endless gray sea. Your letter stopped coming about 3 years ago. I heard you move north where the heavy winds blow. I saw a picture of you with a grin that looked forced, like a part of your spirit had been quietly divorced. I'm still in the valley, chasing shadows of ghosts, while you're making speeches and giving the toast. Old age is a mountain that we climb all alone, finding that the seeds we planted finally grown into a forest that blocks out the path back home. Wherever we wander and wherever we roam, friendship is a fragile thing to hold in your hand. Sun's going down on the memory of us, covered in layers of silver and rust. I'll see you in the dreams of the past, where things were built to truly last. Goodbye to the way it was. We carved our names in the paint of the water tower, spent every single minute of every single hour dreaming of the day we'd finally leave this place, searching for a life that had a little more space. You were the anchor and I was a sail, two sides of a coin on a dusty trail. The map that we drew has been folded and torn, leaving us weathered and a little bit worn. I miss the person you were before the world got its way, and I'm sorry for the man I've become today. Two souls drifting out on an endless gray sea. Your letter stopped coming about 3 years ago. I heard you move north where the heavy winds blow. I saw a picture of you with a grin that looked forced, like a part of your spirit had been quietly divorced. I'm still in the valley, chasing shadows of ghosts, while you're making speeches and giving the toast. Old age is a mountain that we climb all alone, finding that the seeds we planted have finally grown into a forest that blocks out the path back home. Wherever we wander and wherever we roam, friendship is a fragile thing to hold in your hand. The sun's going down on the memory of us, covered in layers of silver and rust. I'll see you in the dreams of the past, where things were built to truly last. Goodbye to the way it was.
Neon sign outside is bleeding in red onto the jagged gravel. I watch the ceiling fan spin like a slow motion gallows. Every sip of this cheap bourbon tastes like a promise I broke. My hands are shaking under the weight of words I never spoke. The clock on the wall stopped ticking back in 79. I'm just a ghost sitting here waiting for the end of the line. The jukebox is humming a tune that sounds like a warning. The air gets heavy with the scent of a storm coming in. Oh, the shadows are growing long and they're calling out my name. A symphony of regret played on a rusted steel string. There ain't enough water in the well to wash these stains away. The moonlight is a witness to the debt I could never repay. You think I'm just a drifter running from a broken heart, but I was the one who set the match to the family farm. I watched the smoke climb high while I drove toward the state line, leaving my brother to answer for a crime that was purely mine. pocket feels heavier than the lead in my chest. The darkness is a blanket that smothers the flickering light. I hear the echoes of sirens screaming through the hollow pine. Justice is a slow-moving train that finally caught the track. There's a hole in my spirit where the mercy used to stack. I'm tired of the running and the lying and the constant fear. I've lived 1,000 lives, but I've never truly been here. God, if you're listening, just turn your head for a second. I'm ready to face the hell that I've spent years beckoning. The bartender's wiping the counter with a cloth made of ghosts. I reach for my keys, but I know I've reached the end of the road. One more glass before the sun forgets to rise again. The door is creaking open now, and the wind begins to howl.